October 28, 1943. The USS Eldridge sits quietly in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. Suddenly, a blinding flash of blue light envelops the destroyer escort. For a brief moment, the massive warship is surrounded by an eerie green fog. Then, in an instant, it vanishes completely, only to reappear seconds later in Norfolk, Virginia, over 200 miles away. When the ship rematerializes in Philadelphia just minutes later, the horror begins. Sailors are found embedded in the metal decks and bulkheads, their flesh fused with the steel of the ship. Others have gone insane, bursting into flames or simply vanishing into thin air. Or at least, that's how the story goes. Hello, and welcome back to Dark Thoughts. Today we're diving into one of the most persistent military conspiracy theories of the 20th century, the Philadelphia experiment. Did the U.S. Navy really achieve invisibility and teleportation during World War II? And if so, at what horrifying cost? The story begins with a man named Carl Allen, who in 1955 sent a series of strange letters to astronomer Morris K. Jessup. Allen claimed to have witnessed the USS Eldridge disappear from the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in 1943, only to reappear moments later with catastrophic consequences for its crew. According to Allen, the Navy had been attempting to create an electromagnetic bubble around the ship, a field that would bend light and radar waves, rendering it invisible to enemy detection. This technology was allegedly based on Einstein's unified field theory and developed with the help of Nikola Tesla, but something went terribly wrong. The ship didn't just become invisible to radar, it physically vanished, teleporting to Norfolk before returning to Philadelphia. When it reappeared, the consequences were horrific. Sailors were found fused into the metal of the ship. Some went insane. Others could walk through walls but couldn't control when this would happen. Some burst into flames, while others simply vanished forever. Jessup initially dismissed these letters as the ravings of a disturbed mind. But in 1957, he received a call from the Office of Naval Research. They had received a copy of his book, The Case for the UFO, heavily annotated with handwritten notes discussing alien races, UFOs, and the Philadelphia experiment. The writing style matched Allen's letters. The ONR was intrigued enough to publish a limited edition of this annotated version. 2 years later, Jessup was found dead in his car, an apparent suicide that some believe was murder to silence him. The Philadelphia experiment remained relatively obscure until 1979, when Charles Berlitz and William Moore published their book, The Philadelphia Experiment, Project Invisibility. Berlitz had previously written The Bermuda Triangle, and his new book brought the Philadelphia experiment into mainstream awareness. In 1984, a movie based on the book was released, further cementing the story in popular culture. Since then, numerous individuals have come forward claiming to be survivors of the experiment or to have inside knowledge of it. One such person was Al Bialik, who emerged in the late 1980s claiming he and his brother had been aboard the Eldridge during the experiment. According to Bialik, they jumped overboard during the teleportation and found themselves transported not just in space but in time, to the year 1983 at Montauk Air Force Station in Long Island. This connection to Montauk spawned a whole new conspiracy theory about time travel experiments allegedly conducted there in the 1970s and 1980s, involving multiple timelines, alien technology, and mind control. But what really happened in Philadelphia in 1943? Did the Navy actually conduct such an experiment? The U.S. Navy has consistently denied that any such experiment took place. According to naval records, the USS Eldridge was not even in Philadelphia on the date in question. The ship's log and the memories of surviving crew members show no evidence of unusual experiments. The Navy suggests that witnesses might have confused the Eldridge with another ship undergoing degaussing, a common procedure during World War II that involved wrapping ships in large cables and running electrical current through them to demagnetize their hulls, making them less vulnerable to magnetic mines. This process could create visual effects like a corona discharge or St. Elmo's fire, electrical phenomena that might appear as a glowing blue light. Degaussing was not classified and would not have made ships invisible or caused teleportation. As for Carl Allen himself, investigations into his background have raised serious questions about his credibility. He had a history of mental health issues and was known for making grandiose claims. Some researchers believe his letters to Jessup were part of an elaborate hoax or the product of delusions. The scientific basis for the Philadelphia experiment is also highly questionable. Einstein never completed a unified field theory, and even if he had, there's no scientific mechanism by which such a theory could be used to make objects invisible or enable teleportation. Nikola Tesla, who allegedly contributed to the experiment, died in January 1943, months before the supposed October experiment. While Tesla was a brilliant inventor, many of the more exotic technologies attributed to him by conspiracy theorists are not supported by scientific evidence. Similarly, Al Bielek's credibility has been seriously questioned. Investigations revealed that many of his claims about his identity and education were false. Critics suggest he constructed his story based on the movie and existing conspiracy literature, rather than actual experiences. Despite these problems with the story, the Philadelphia experiment continues to fascinate people. Why has this particular conspiracy theory endured for so long? Part of its appeal lies in its connection to real historical figures like Einstein and Tesla, whose genius lends a veneer of credibility. The timing is also significant. World War II was a period of rapid technological advancement, with projects like the Manhattan Project demonstrating that the government could develop revolutionary technologies in secret. The story also taps into deeper cultural anxieties about technology outpacing our ability to control it. The image of sailors fused into the metal of their ship is a powerful metaphor for the dehumanizing potential of unchecked technological progress. So what are we to make of the Philadelphia experiment? Is there any truth to this strange tale? The evidence suggests that the Philadelphia experiment, as described by Allen and later writers, never happened. There's no credible documentation, no physical evidence, and the scientific principles involved simply don't support the possibility of such effects. But that doesn't mean the Navy wasn't conducting classified research. Projects like the Manhattan Project demonstrate that the military was capable of keeping massive scientific undertakings secret when necessary. Stealth technology, which does make objects less visible to radar, was eventually developed, though decades later, and using principles very different from those described in the Philadelphia experiment story. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of the Philadelphia experiment isn't whether it happened, but why the story has endured for so long. It speaks to our fascination with the unknown, our suspicion of government secrecy, and our simultaneous fear of and hope for technological breakthroughs that could fundamentally change our understanding of reality. In the end, the Philadelphia experiment remains one of America's most persistent military myths, a story that, while almost certainly false in its details, continues to capture our imagination and remind us of the thin line between cutting-edge science and science fiction. That's all for today, folks. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who appreciates the mysteries that lurk at the edges of history. I'm Ivan, and you've been watching Dark Thoughts. If this episode made you think, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the shadows of the past. Remember, sometimes the most fascinating stories are the ones we can't quite prove or disprove. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and I'll see you in the shadows next time.